Love this man's work in The Crown and Mad Men, which you can catch here on Audience every day, and Chernobyl, which is as remarkable a miniseries as there's ever been on HBO or anywhere, and you can watch it on HBO Go and HBO Now right now. And I'm thrilled to have here on the Rich Eisen Show, Jared Harris. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you too.
I'll say it again. This is not for the faint of heart. It's remarkable. It's a remarkable achievement that you have been a part of. Did you know when you started doing this that you were part of something special? Could you tell at that point in time, Jared?
Well, I knew the scripts were remarkable and something special, but there's so many things that have to happen, in terms of the whole team has to hit the bullseye. And I'd say this is one of those sort of rare occasions where in every department, art direction, costume, the makeup, even it's not that often you've read sort of critical analysis of a show where even the sound design is being talked about as having a sort of an effective contribution to the whole piece. So yeah, once we were there and we were shooting, you can feel that it's going well. But after you finish working on something, you're basically kept in the dark and you have no idea how the post-production process is going. So. And you can't predict how the product or your show is going to be received. So and a lot of that is to do with timing. So it seems to have arrived at the right moment.
Yeah, I mean, anytime I've watched something, see something, TV or movies that I'm so moved by, I'll read more about it. And the articles that I've read about Chernobyl is the attention to detail is blowing away people whose job it is to be expert in the field that you're portraying, down to the uniforms that are being worn, down to like the waste bins that are on the set. And I'm wondering how that helped you in getting into your character, into your role, into performing.
Yeah, all of that helps. That all helps. It's a one less thing that it doesn't pull you out or you don't have to think about or worry about. And that was certainly true on, say, shows like Mad Men or The Terror, or this, or where they are the people who are in charge of creating that world. There's a premium being put on the fact that if you bring the more authentic the material is that you bring, the happier the director is, the happier the showrunner is. On Mad Men, if you opened a drawer on that set, everything was period. There wouldn't have been any sort of, you couldn't open a magazine and it would not be that month that that episode was taking place in. Yeah.
So you're used to being on a set like that. Was it same way for The Crown as well, pretty much?
Yeah, it was.
That's everywhere you go.
And this, of course, we shot in Lithuania was part of the Soviet Union, and there's big parts of the country that still have that sort of Soviet hangover to it in terms of the architecture, the buildings, and the people there certainly had lived through the Soviet era. So, and we had in the costume department, part of the crew that they had worked in Soviet factories, so they would tell you nothing was cut to fit. And the material was quite strong, sort of heavy canvas-like material, so it wouldn't hang on you well. And so they sort of because our thing is to try and make it look good, and they went, no, nobody looked good.
Right, exactly. Yeah. There's nothing glamorous about this sort of thing. The man who plays Valery Legasov, the Soviet nuclear physicist in Chernobyl, Jared Harris, here on the Rich Eisen Show. What did you learn about it? What did you come away with that you? Well,
I obviously learned a lot about nuclear physics.
Yeah, right.
And I could explain in layman terms how a nuclear reactor works. I could explain what went wrong on that night, which is, that's a pretty big thing to get your head around. So, but luckily Craig had got his head around it, and I just had to figure out what he wanted me to talk about.
Yeah, sure. And obviously this has been a worldwide reaction to this. The Russian government's not too much of a fan.
Odd that, isn't it? I mean, the Russian government has got nothing in common with the Soviet government. I mean, it would be like Angela Merkel getting upset about policies of the National Socialist Party during the 1930s Germany. I mean, they have no...
Right.
The Russian government's a democratic government, and this is a Yeah, I don't quite understand why they're upset.
Yeah, it's odd, isn't it? It's kind of strange. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's apparently they're going to do their own version of Chernobyl. That's
Again,
what I'm hearing
and
about
an
right
odd
now.
thing to do because they're going to sit. I think I saw somewhere there was going to be something about the CIA agent blowing it up, but they don't look good in that version either because the guy blows it up.
That's true.
It's a failure.
That's
so. How is
true.
that a better version of the story?
Jared, I don't think they've thought this thing
I don't
through.
think
I'll be
they've
very
thought
honest
it
with you. I
through.
don't think they really
Yeah.
have thought it completely through.
I suspect they'll probably hire someone in Hollywood to write the story.
or the people that are showing up in Chernobyl in the area right now taking Instagram photographs of themselves.
That's weird. I mean, apart from anything else, I saw some pictures of people on swings and things like that, and as far as I understand, the metal absorbs the radiation and holds it longer. So those are bad places to be sitting on or resting on or being near because you're probably absorbing more radiation than if you were elsewhere in that plot. I would avoid all those areas.
One thing that I picked up from watching this show, Jared, is that it's a dangerous spot for many, many years to come. So if you're a fan and you're fanning out on the show, you would kind of pick up the fact that it would be dangerous to visit there.
Well, they do adventure tourism there. You're taken through and guided walks, and you have to sign something that you understand the risk you're taking. But obviously, maybe it was in Ukrainian that they didn't understand what they were signing. But
Jared Harris.
well, they
here.
didn't read.
That's right, on the Rich Eisen show. So, what sports are you into, if any?
I am a big football fan. I support Manchester United.
Okay.
I love boxing. I used to box when I was younger. I found it harder to watch boxing now. I mean, the heavyweight division just collapsed quite a long time ago.
But I mean, you've got obviously Tyson Fury is involved in this. But he was in that chair about 2 weeks ago.
I saw his boxing club.
That's right, and he is quite a specimen. I mean, I would not imagine wanting to be in the way of anything of his.
They feel like they're bigger, but I don't know if are they
stronger.
Do they have the sweet science? You know. How much of that?
Again, I'll be honest with you. I didn't want to try and find out. I was like 6'9" when he stood up out of that seat.
Yeah.
And he came on in like these pink shorts, right? These like hot pink shorts.
Like really short too. A lot of thigh going on.
Yeah. So, and then
no one's going to say anything if you're 6'9" and built like that.
And the Gypsy King showed up with an entourage that when I went back to say hello to them sounded like they were extras from a Guy Ritchie movie.
Okay.
It really was just everything that he brought to the equation was you imagine that Tyson Fury would bring to the equation.
Right.
But I know you're an Ali aficionado, correct?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of his growing up, yeah.
So, because you mentioned when you sat down here, you saw our memorabilia on the wall.
Yeah, I have a poster of the Ali Fraser fight, the first one at Madison Square Garden, signed by both of them.
No kidding.
And I also have a glove signed by Ali as well.
So, I mean, that's got to be some of your more prized possessions that you have in your.
Yes, I was such in great admiration for him and for what he did, and I'm still waiting for the perfect Ali movie to be made. And my pitch for it would be, it's the 3 years where he wasn't fighting, and because at that point of his life, he had become such an effective civil rights advocate. And that he was being courted to run for office, and he had to make a decision towards the end of those 3 years where he'd won the Supreme Court case. Is he could have entered political life, public life.
Yes, he could have.
Or he could have stayed with boxing. That's an interesting story for if you're going to do an Ali movie.
Well, profile and courage. There's no question about that. Obviously, what he did and what he stood for at the time, he was, to say the least, getting a lot of heat for it.
Yes, and he was just so damn beautiful as well.
Well, he would tell you too.
Yeah,
he would tell that to you in various different forms, whether it was poetic or just straight to your face. And the reason why I do what I do for a living in many ways is because I grew up a fan of Howard Cosell's.
Okay.
Who would obviously have to be part of this film.
He would
being a guy who would be an announcer who was in his corner at the time, and there weren't a lot of people in his corner at the time.
Weird, isn't it? But yeah, they weren't. He got a lot of flack for that.
And that's why you were a fan of his, just his fighting style as well, or?
Well, I used to box at school, so I try and copy him, which was a disaster.
Did you rope a dope, or did you try the footwork?
I did try rope a dope once, but it was a bad strategy because there was only 3 1-minute rounds, and it wasn't long enough to tire the guy out. It didn't work.
Normally you need the long game.
I hadn't quite figured that part of the strategy out.
That's just the rope, or is that the dope?
I was the dope.
That's right.
Yeah, I rope a dope myself in that one. But yeah, I used to box at school. I remember I got hit so hard by a guy. I got knocked out, but I was standing on my feet. I couldn't see anything, but I could hear still.
Right.
And so I sort of danced around and kept flinging out a jab, hopefully in the direction I thought he was in. He didn't quite realize that he'd tagged me, otherwise I'd have gone down. But I remember all my vision coming back.
Okay.
And it comes back from the outside and then slowly works its way in. And it's like a lot of little pinpoints of color. So it's like stars that slowly come back in towards the middle.
And then you got up.
No, I wasn't down. I was actually
Oh,
up.
I see. Okay.
He just sort of hit me so hard that I couldn't see anything.
I thought it would be like Tyson Fury, where you're down, then all of a sudden you get up. They just pop up just like that. And so, forgive me if I sound ignorant. You're a Manchester United fan.
I am.
Does that mean did you have no concern about Liverpool winning, or do you care? Or
I've got more friends who are Tottenham fans, so
okay.
I was rooting for Tottenham, but
does it also help that Harry Kane was on that side as well, or?
No, what do you mean? Because of the England team?
Yeah, sure. I mean, what he did at the World Cup was
so hard to watch. I really do. I find them hard to watch.
Is it because they're eventually going to let you down at the very end?
They did pretty good. This team did pretty good. They overachieved.
Amazing.
Yes, they really did.
Actually made you think like it was going to happen.
No, I didn't believe that at one point ever that was going to happen. No, I think it's because you can see they play with fear. At some point, what happens with the England team is they go out there in the first 20 minutes, they're just full of adrenaline. Mm-hmm. So they run like rabbits for 20 minutes all over the field. And they to wear down their opposition, and they normally score. Mm-hmm. They'll get an early goal, but then, as we know from boxing, that thing that you do, if you allow the adrenaline to take hold of you, was a bad strategy to have, because the thing that happens is after adrenaline wears off, extreme tiredness. Mm-hmm. Your legs become heavy, your arms become heavy. So you can see that after a burst of adrenaline wears off, they suddenly become, they can't move, they can't run,
right,
and they just start hoofing the ball. So you revert to what you were taught as a kid, which in English football is kick and run. So they start hoofing the ball up the field, and all the skill goes out, and we just looks just terrible. So it is painful.
It is painful.
Being an English fan.
It's like you're waiting for the trapdoor to open up.
It's not that much better being a Man U fan at the moment, I have to say. It's pretty... We had a very, very good run, so you can't complain, but it's pretty tough at the moment.
Jared Harris here. A couple more minutes left in the Rich Eisen show. You said when you sat down in the chair and looked at my show logo, you said what John Hamm said when he saw the show logo for the first time.
Yeah.
Very Don Draper-like, don't you think?
Very Don Draper. Don Draper on the run.
There is.
Yeah.
Exactly. He kind of grabbed the mug and did the Mad Men theme as it was falling down sort of way. Being on that show, and you joined it midway through.
Third year,
correct,
I started,
right?
Yeah.
it's pretty much as you.
It was already a big thing
exactly.
by then. Yeah.
What was it like walking onto the set with that at that time?
I mean, I remember. I was a fan of the show, so I was excited and intimidated, and I also didn't know. I was only hired for one episode. And
Lane Price is just one episode?
They said, listen, he's not sure what he's going to do with the character, but he definitely wants him for one episode. He might write him in for more, he might not. He depends on what he sees happens with the role. So, but we definitely want the character for one episode. So, so I was sort of episode to episode during that. No matter how experienced you are, if you watch a show, you get into the whole imaginative life of the show. When you meet those people in real life, you are a little bit starstruck. So, and those guys had all figured out what they needed to figure out by then. So there was no conversations about the script, the material, the world, the style of performance, anything like that. You had to figure that out really quickly.
Well, and there is a similarity I could not help but notice, and I don't know if it's spoiler alert if something happens in Chernobyl within the first couple minutes.
It's not really a spoiler alert.
Right, but Lane Price and your character in Chernobyl both meet the same end. Jared, I'm wondering what's up with that.
Slightly, well, that's the writers decided that.
Or in the case of, obviously, Chernobyl history, this actually happened.
Well, he decided where to put that event in the story.
True.
Craig did. And and Craig used it as a he wanted it to stick in your mind as to why had he done that. So it's a mystery at that point.
Correct.
And that you'll suspend that thought in your mind as you go through the show. But then Valery Legasov, he did it as a statement. He used it as an inciting event to try and get the scientific community to reveal what they knew about the reactors and the design of the reactors and the cause of the accident. And it worked in that sense. And he only had a couple of years left. I mean, his daughter was talking about it recently, about how sick he was at that point. He was actually a lot sicker than we portrayed him to be. He was very thin and he had stopped eating. And I mean, he was very poorly.
Well, I mean, that's the thing that my wife and I, many times we remarked watching Chernobyl, is the fact that how close to the building everybody was with nothing on to protect them. And
they hadn't trained them.
So I'm just wondering if everybody knew just doing their jobs every day was a death sentence, essentially, just being as close to the building as they were. That's the thing that I've always
certainly Legasov knew that. And anyone who had any kind of familiarity with nuclear physics would have understood that the longer you spent there in proximity to it, I mean, they weren't as close as the first responders. I mean, that was an instant death sentence for those guys, and again, they hadn't been trained in what to do in those circumstances. They'd only ever been trained in how to handle a conventional fire. But it all depended. Once the people who had arrived afterwards, and once the fire was out, it's how long you spend in proximity to that material. And also how much of it is coming down on you and getting kicked up in the wind. And
well, I never really say this to a guest, but having followed your career and seeing Legasov in Chernobyl and Lane Price in Mad Men, I hope you're not somebody who's trying to quit smoking through
I
through
quit.
your work. Oh, my God.
I quit,
After Chernobyl?
No, I quit several years ago. It took me 7 goes. I quit in 2004.
How the hell are you doing your job?
Well, they're not real cigarettes. You're not allowed to smoke real cigarettes on sets.
But
they're herbal cigarettes. They taste disgusting.
So then your acting is particularly amazing.
Also, the thing about those, and this is true as well for Mad Men, herbal cigarettes don't stay lit. So normal cigarettes, they put stuff in it so you can puff away and hold it and chat for a bit for 20, 30 seconds, and it will be lit when you come back to it. Not herbal cigarettes. So when you see them and they're going, and they're like sucking on them for their life, the reason is so they're trying to keep the damn thing lit, and it doesn't go off in the middle of the take, and you have to redo the take because the cigarette went out. So that's why you see like John Hamm and John Slattery and everything. They're sucking on these things for their life. And that's the reason why.
So I'm mandated to ask, is that real alcohol that was in the set?
No, you're not allowed to do that either, unfortunately. It was kind of boring. Or the set went on Mad Men when Matt Weiner was there would be a little tipple of whiskey by the cameras, and you could go and have a little slug.
I'm just wondering. Well, Jared, this has been a delight. Thank you for coming on. I've really enjoyed everything that you've done, and Chernobyl is an achievement. That's a word for it. And good luck to you. I hope you get every award that you deserve for this. It's amazing.
Thank you.
It really is. At Jared Harris on both Twitter and Instagram. Chernobyl can be watched right now on HBO Go and HBO Now. That's how I took it. And by the way, one last thing too. The fact that we're all talking about this right as Game of Thrones was hitting a crescendo and ending is a testament to just how great what you're doing.
They gave us a really good lead-in.
No, I know that. I mean, that is the mother of all dragons of lead-ins, right?
Couldn't have asked for a better.
But the fact that it was talked about as much as it was, it could easily have been lost in that Game of Thrones
It hit
wake.
a nerve, and that's what you can't plan. It was the right story at the right time, and you can never plan that kind of thing. And it's obviously there's a thing in the sort of the political zeitgeist, the climate change debate, all that. And it's not preachy because it's about this story specifically.
Right.
It's not trying to make that analogy, but you can see the show and see the themes that are being talked about in it, and you can quite easily make some transitions.
Maybe the Russians think it's preachy. Maybe that's what their issue is, Jared. Maybe they're the ones
they
who
do,
think it's
but
preachy.
again, why? Because it's a completely different political system. I
don't understand.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just, again, not thinking it all through.
Well, there's some old guard.
It's the old guard situation. They're still there.
They're still there.
They're still around. HBO Go or HBO Now. Chernobyl is there right now. Check it out. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Jared Harris. We'll wrap up this show and the rest of the week in a moment.
For more of The Rich Eisen Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV for free on BR Live or download the Rich Eisen Show app.